Article 1 of the Constitution clearly states that all sovereign power belong to the people of the Republic of Kenya and shall be exercised in accordance with the Constitution. Article 196, Article 10, Article 174, Article 118, Article 119 all clearly emphasize the role of the people in the decision-making process of the country. Article 232 is very categorical as to the power the people hold when it comes to the decision-making of the country. Participation is simply defined as the involvement, influence in an event, activity, or decision-making process, and not merely a presence. Our Constitution is categorical that the power of the people is the very foundation that informs the government's decision-making on behalf of the people. But our government's attitude and behavior towards this critical pillar of the policy making of the nation leaves us asking ourselves, does the government think that public participation is a cosmetic process meant to ratify their decisions or rubber stamp those decisions after the fact? Or do they see this process exactly what the Constitution means it to be, being the very pillar upon which decisions of the country are made by government departments, the government itself, and all other arms of government? The Kenyan 2010 Constitution shifted our decision-making process from politician-centered to the people-centered, not as a mere suggestion, but as the anchor and the driver as to how, when, and where decisions of the country are made. The Constitution embedded public participation into the very DNA of the governance of our country. It defines the very governance of our nation. Because if any decision shall not be made as per the Constitution without the involvement of public views and the incorporation of their views into that very process, then it means it is the very pillar that supports the policy and decision making of the country. But is this what the government follows? Should we take the kind of public participation that we saw during the impeachment of the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua as the standard of public participation in Kenya?
Kusikiza ambayo wanayasema.
Those things, and we are saying we don't want those things. Hizo vitu ziende kabisa. We don't want those things. What these signatures are going, those things are very fake. Those things are very fake. We are the people who are taking our signatures.
Is that what we are supposed to hold against as a standard when it comes to this important process of our decision making in the country? The Constitution's answer is a firm no, because our public participation process is not a mere suggestion. It is important. It is the core. It is the base upon which all arms of government and all public institutions in Kenya must base their decisions upon. The government appears to use public participation as a mere tool and rubber stamp to ensure that their decisions pass these critical constitutional requirements. This is evidenced in one of the instances where public participation has been made to come at the tail end of the process, instead being put at the very beginning of that process so as to inform that decision and ensure that that decision is in tandem with the constitutional requirement that the people's views are the ones that shall inform the final decision. When the Nairobi County government and the national government signed a cooperation agreement, and public participation is seen to come at the very tail end of that process, instead of coming at the beginning and inform the very decision and final conclusion and the final document to be signed by the Nairobi County government and the national government in cooperation. And if the people say no, then that decision must be rejected. If the people pass it with amendments, then the amendments and the views of the public and the residents of the Nairobi County must be incorporated in this decision. But instead, a document was drafted, taken to State House, a whole ceremony was undertaken, the government signed, the national government in this case, the Nairobi County government signed as well, and now they purport to bring it for public participation when they have already made the decision. This clearly shows that for the government and for the various levels of government and various public institutions, public participation is not a critical process that is dictated by the Constitution and a right granted to Kenyans by the Constitution, but is a mere suggestion to them that they only do it to ensure that it does not fail through our judicial processes and that it is seen or appears to be informed by the people or to have passed through the public for approval. This government, its agencies, and county governments have taken public participation to be a mere rubber stamp of their decisions. They ignore public views, they ignore public outcries. When Kenyans say no to a particular decision and cry out that it will hurt them, they go ahead and ignore. This was evidenced in 2024. The legislative arm of government, being Parliament, chest thumpingly cleared and passed the 2024 Finance Bill, despite 970 memos out of the 1,000 memos submitted by stakeholders to Parliament, rejecting and opposing the bill almost in its entirety. 102 out of 112 stakeholder bodies, which are critical and center stage to the running of the country, actually rejected this bill in its totality. Parliament went ahead to pass that bill with giving little or no consideration to the public views.
The results of the division are as follows. Yes, 195. No, 106. Spoiled, 3. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The aftermath was deadly protests that broke out throughout the country. Thousands of properties were destroyed, lives were lost, and tens of lives were actually lost of people protesting that very decision. In the end, the government had no choice but to withdraw the bill in its entirety.
I concede, and therefore I will not sign the 2024 Finance Bill, and it shall subsequently be withdrawn, and I have agreed with these members that that becomes our collective position.
Yet this could have been done in the first place when the people gave their views and opposed that bill. Parliament should have read the room. The legislative arm of the government should have known that this was completely rejected by the people. They would have gone back to the drawing board and ensured that they came up with a document that was acceptable to the people. Because you cannot purport to sit down and make a decision that affects the lives of the people of the Republic of Kenya and not involve them in that decision. You cannot pass certain laws that ensure that people become more impoverished. You cannot sit and pass laws that will affect the daily lives of our people, businesses, and how we conduct our affairs in the country without involving us. This aftermath clearly showed the trend that our government has undertaken to ignore us, to see us as mere puppets, and to see our participation in their processes of making decisions that affect us as a mere suggestion made by the Constitution and not as a key requirement. The government does not only reject the views of the people, that very trend begins even from the notices they give to the public. They give 7 days, 14 days, vague notices for public participation. And when they hold these events, they hold them at times that most Kenyans are at work. You do not expect me to leave my workstation, especially if I'm employed, to come and give my views on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday. But if you put this public participation event on a Saturday, I may be able to create time and attend these sessions. And their aim and way of curtailing our public sentiments in the decision-making process of the government does not just involve vague notices. It also involves a very intricate process brought up by especially our legislative arm that it is very hard and difficult and almost impossible for the common mwananchi to access the critical and technical documents of the decisions that Parliament makes and the arms of government and different levels of government make. The access to these documents are critical because how am I supposed to make a decision that I do not have full information of? If you come and tell me you want to build a road through my apartment block, I must be able to know the length of that road, the cost of that road, how the government will finance that road, how long that road will take, and the very technical details down to the letter of that particular project. So that when I come to give my views as a member of the public and as a sovereign of this nation, I will be able to give informed views. I will give views that are in tandem and that are informed by the very proposals you have made. But when you make access to this information contrary to provisions of the Constitution of access to information, you make it very hard for the public to actually give their views. All this points towards a trend that is meant to stifle the voices of the people and to ensure that the people are not involved in the decision-making processes. Parliament being the largest culprit of this, as it is told all the decisions they take must involve public participation, as they are mere representatives of the people, ensures that these processes are difficult, are set at times that the people cannot attend or may be limited to attendance, and they see this process as a process that takes time, the time that is critical and actually opposes their selfish gains in majority of these laws and their oppression to the people and the public masked as progress for the country. They do not want to wait. They refuse to wait for us to give our inputs because they know the moment we access these documents, the moment we have adequate notices, the moment these public participation events are made and scheduled at a time where all of us can adequately participate, it will expose the rot in any of the bills, and it will bring light to the process of any bill or any decision taken by the government, and will expose any kind of self-centeredness in these decisions. But they do not want this to happen. Therefore, they complicate the process and stifle our voices and take away our right that is given by the Constitution. And that is not just a suggestion, but a guaranteed right in the Constitution.